Leinster, Munster, 13 points to 10. Leinster get it done in the final quarter of the game. I've just finished watching it. I may have been a bit optimistic with how much space I left on the whiteboard for potential, as I was watching it live, doing a live stream. Yeah, maybe I left a bit much space for potential points to be scored. I haven't written up the penalties, to be honest, but yeah, 2 tries in the game. Crazy game in terms of it being a bit of a, like, it was an attritional battle. Apparently the weather was not the best. It was one that was hard to see on camera, and the coverage here only started virtually as the players were coming out on the pitch. But from what some of the guys on the stream were saying, it's been snowing, so the weather was a bit deceptive. It was worse than it looked. But also, I mean, the number of tackles and turnovers in this game, plus some pretty smart kicking, meant that scoring opportunities were at a minimum. And it took 2 pretty big moments from both teams to actually cross the whitewash. But anyway, I'll go over some of the key moments, some of the stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this one went as well. Started off, JJ Hanrahan kicks a long penalty on about 5 minutes to make it 3-0. And his goal kicking, from what I have seen of him recently, has been pretty solid. But there's a certain 6 points that get left out there today, which, when you look back at this scoreline, for Munster is absolutely heartbreaking. But that's sometimes the way cookie crumbles, right? Munster's scrum was looking pretty good early. They won a scrum penalty. Second one they won was like too far away for a kick, so they went for touch. 13 phases. And it's the try to Tyke Byrne. It's a weird one as well, because he gets the ball, like it's the 13th phase. He gets the ball side of a ruck. Doesn't look like he's really going anywhere. He gets kind of chop tackled, but he's still able to keep 1 foot free. Jean Klein and Peter O'Mahony just absolutely power him over. No rights to score the try. Like, as often as a pushover try can be kind of magic, it's one where you look at the initial tackle and think he surely can't go over from here. Just recycle the ball, keep going, but he managed to get over. On-field decision was a try. They had to go to the TMO to check. TMO says, they can't see anything to overturn that decision. So after like 12 minutes, it's 10-0. 10-0 to Munster. But that's the last points they score of the entire game. And I don't know how many teams have beaten Leinster without scoring for 68 minutes, but I would have thought it's not that many. So, yeah, that'll be particularly disappointed that they weren't able to kind of kick on. They did have a couple of chances, like I mentioned, to kick some penalties, but it was certainly a good start. They just weren't able to keep going. 15 minutes, Leinster had their own little scrum move. Sexton kicks it out on the full with a cross kick, and it wouldn't be the first time, or wouldn't be the last time, that the old cross kicks were not quite happening. I was shaking my head for that one. It was 5 meters too big, easily. 18 minutes, I wrote, Munster, on the other hand, their kicking for touch has been great. I know Mike Haley had one. There was somebody else. Was it Hanrahan? I don't know, but some of their kicks for touch were just like pinpoint accurate. Sometimes it's the bounce helped them out, but you put yourself in that position by not kicking it out on the full to start with. And if the bounce does you a favour, just take that all the way to the bank. So they were looking slick. 25 minutes, Leinster got their first points of the game. It was a penalty, made it 10-3. And that was their first chance really down Munster's end. So you definitely take the 3 in that point to try and shift the momentum. I thought maybe they had, because a few minutes later, Lama goes in, beats a defender with a nice little step, which is what he does really well. And he puts a little grubber through, he tries to regather it, but Earls is able to kind of snaffle it back over the touchline and force it. So it's still a Leinster 5 metre scrum, but it's more than they've had at any point during this game so far, because it's been mostly Munster down Leinster's end. I looked at the stats at one point, and it was like ridiculous territory and position in Munster's favour in those first kind of 20 minutes. But yeah, Leinster aren't able to score from that kind of 5 metre play. They did go as close as they've been, and they must have been down there for about 5 minutes, but eventually I think it was Reece Marshall got a breakdown penalty. So Leinster really pushing all the way, but not quite able to break that Munster defensive line, which is what they're known for. Right before halftime, JJ Hanrahan's got a tricky but doable shot at goal. He takes it right on the 40. It hits the post. Looking at that scoreline, pretty costly. Bounces back in play, but more costly is the fact that from the ball bouncing back into play, Leinster truck it up. They win a penalty. They kick for touch. They go down Munster's end. They win a penalty of their own. They kick it. So it goes in at half-time 10 points to 6. So it could have been 13-3. It's now 10-6, which is properly game on. So yeah, really no rights to score that second penalty, Leinster. Halftime stats end up with 65% possession and 64% territory in Leinster's favour, despite being really under the pump for the initial kind of 18 or so minutes. Defenders beaten was somehow 18-4 in Leinster's favour, but Munster had made 105 tackles to Leinster's 60. So Munster's defence had been having to hold out. They had 2 turnovers to Leinster's 1. So, like I mentioned, a couple of them at really key moments. Second half, 46 minutes, and maybe the biggest let-off for Leinster of this game is JJ Hanrahan misses a penalty, and it was a pretty straightforward one. Kicker at his calibre should be slotting that one 10 times out of 10. But he pushed it wide. It was a really bad let-off. 56 minutes, Leinster get a 5-metre scrum. They go through loads of phases, but Tyg Byrne, just similar to Reece Marshall in that first half, wins a key turnover. He looks pumped up. He's like, screaming at his players. They're like a metre out. So their defence holds, wins a penalty for them. Absolutely magic moment. Like, I love that about him, that he can play in the second row, but he still gets you turnovers like a back rower. I know he's that versatile. 58 minutes, Mike Haley puts another great touch finder for Munster. And it's only a slight lead, but I'm thinking at this point, nobody's looking like scoring. There's been no points in the second half. And we're already like 20-odd minutes into the second half. So they should be able to see this one out. But there's a proper moment of magic that comes. It comes after some kind of poor play. Like Ringrose at one point does another Leinster cross kick. It goes out on the full, way too big. This is what I'm talking about. Like, they didn't look like getting it done. But 69 minutes, man. Lama on the right wing. They have a line-out Leinster on the other side of the field. They go one phase to the right. They get it to Ross Byrne. Puts a little kick through. Keenan does really well to gather it. And then he puts the pass to Lama, who has to do a little step. It's a proper moment of magic try. And a really good conversion from Ross Byrne. Makes it 13 points to 10, which is a crucial conversion in terms of like at least making it penalty distance. Like they can't get in front with a penalty or a droppy. But yeah, first lead change of the game, and it happens with pretty much 10 minutes to go. Munster have been leading from the 5th minute onwards. Munster in the final 10 minutes, they have to chase the game. They keep putting in box kicks right through till about 75 minutes. Eventually, they do keep ball in hand. Leinster are in no mood to play down their own end. They keep kicking them back the other way. And eventually, when Munster have to keep running it, Damien Delander knocks it on with about a minute to go. Resulting scrum, Leinster get it back, kick the ball out. Game over. So you'd be pretty heartbroken if you're a Munster fan, given how long you were leading the game, and that there were at least 3 points easy left out on the ball, like out on the field, and another potential 3, which would have won you the game. Not there, but anyway, that is what it is. Possession finishes 50-50, territory 50-50, or 52-48, so close enough. Clean breaks is 3-2 in Leinster's favour, so pretty close. Defenders beaten finishes 37-16, which seems pretty high. But both defences made a ton of tackles, 195 Leinster, 183 Munster. Leinster's tackling percentage is a bit higher. Turnovers won, though, was 5-3 in Munster's favour, so I think Tyg Byrne had 3 of them. Like, he is just immense. He gets player of the match. He's their highest tackler with 22, and he's their most turnovers with 3. So 3/5 of their entire team's turnovers. James Ryan is the top tackler of the game, though, with 29. Good work rate from him. Lama and Haley end up with the most run meters of the game. Lama still looks a bit suspect under the high ball, to be fair. It's an area of his game where he's not quite mastered. And I know they put him under a lot of pressure, but that's just what teams do these days. It was like 700-odd kick meters from both teams, so there's a fair bit of kicking. You need to be able to take those high balls pretty comfortably. So if there was an area to work on, that's surely a trainable skill in training. So that's one he needs to be training a lot on. Vardy had 2 turnovers for Leinster as well. Like I mentioned, Tyke Byrne player of the match, but in a losing effort. Tight game. Good watch. Like, not a real high scoring, like, blasting game with, tons of tries. Tough conditions. Good defense, despite all those defenders beating numbers. Like, both sides end up with, 83 and 92% tackling percentages as my kids go ballistic in the other room. But yeah, a bit of a grind of a game, but some magic at times. And Leinster will take that win all the way to the bank. So it makes that conference for them, Conference A, look pretty tasty with Ulster as well. So we'll see what happens. Pretty much like an Irish national team selection trial game, right? With all the talent on display. So some guys certainly put their hands up, but we'll see what happens when the team gets named. I'm not sure this game will make a difference for that, but you never know what Andy Farrell's going to do. Anyway, you guys take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.